Maria held her daughter's tiny hand as they stood outside the expensive downtown hotel, shivering in the cold November wind. Her faded coat was too thin for the weather, and the soles of her shoes were nearly worn through. Beside her, 7-year-old Lily clutched a small paper bag containing 2 peanut butter sandwiches Maria had made from the last loaf of bread in their apartment. People rushed past them without a glance. Some looked away, others stared. A few laughed. Maria pretended not to notice. "Mom," Lily whispered softly, tugging on her sleeve. "Are you sure this is the right place?" Maria forced a smile. Community dinner is being held here tonight. The luxury hotel towered above them like a palace of gold and glass. Expensive cars lined the entrance. Women in sparkling dresses and men in tailored suits stepped out beneath glowing chandeliers while valets hurried to open doors. Maria swallowed hard. She had almost turned around 3 times on the bus ride there. But the flyer at the church had promised a free Thanksgiving dinner for struggling families, and after losing her second job 2 weeks earlier, she had no choice. Lily hadn't eaten a proper meal in days. As they approached the entrance, 2 women standing nearby glanced at Maria and smirked. "She actually came dressed like that?" one whispered loudly. The other laughed. "People have no shame anymore." Maria lowered her eyes and kept walking, like a stone in her chest, but she refused to cry in front of Lily. Inside the grand ballroom, golden lights sparkled across crystal decorations. The smell of roasted turkey and fresh bread filled the air. For a moment, Lily's eyes widened in amazement. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Maria nodded, though embarrassment burned inside her. Her clothes looked older beneath the ballroom lights. She noticed people staring. A volunteer handed them paper name tags. "Please sit wherever you can," the woman said kindly. Most tables were already full. When Maria and Lily approached one near the center, a man in a gray suit frowned. "Those seats are taken." At another table, a woman quietly pulled her purse closer as Maria walked by. Finally, they found 2 empty chairs near the back beside a service station. Lily smiled anyway. "Mom, look, they have pumpkin pie." Maria laughed softly despite herself. "I see that." For the first time in weeks, she felt a tiny flicker of peace. Then the host stepped onto the stage. "Tonight," he announced proudly, "we celebrate generosity, gratitude, and community." Applause filled the room. Maria clapped quietly, though something about the speech hurt. It was easy for wealthy people to talk about gratitude when they had never worried about choosing between rent and groceries. Halfway through dinner, Lily noticed an elderly man sitting alone near the corner of the ballroom. Everyone else seemed busy, talking and laughing, but he simply stared down at his untouched plate. "Mom," Lily whispered, "that grandpa looks sad." Maria glanced over. The man wore a simple black coat despite the luxury around him. He looked older than everyone else there, with silver hair and tired eyes. "Maybe he just wants to be alone," Maria replied gently, but Lily was already standing. Before Maria could stop her, the little girl picked up one of her peanut butter sandwiches from the paper bag and walked across the room. Maria's heart nearly stopped from embarrassment. "Lily." The room seemed to grow quieter as people noticed the poorly dressed child approaching the elderly man. Lily held out the sandwich shyly. "My mom says nobody should eat alone on Thanksgiving," she said. "You can have half of mine." Several nearby guests chuckled under their breath. The old man looked stunned. Then slowly his eyes filled with tears. "No one has shared with me in a very long time," he said quietly. Lily smiled. "Then today is special." Maria hurried over, mortified. "I'm so sorry," she began. "She didn't mean to bother you." But the man stood. "It's no bother at all." His voice carried surprising strength. "What your daughter just gave me is worth more than anything in this ballroom." The room fell silent. The elderly man looked around carefully at the wealthy guests, the expensive decorations, the overflowing food. Then he turned back to Maria. "You're her mother?" Maria nodded nervously. "You've raised an extraordinary child." Before Maria could answer, headlights suddenly flashed through the ballroom windows. Outside, a long black car pulled up to the entrance. Then another and another. People began murmuring. The hotel manager rushed forward nervously, straightening his tie. To Maria's confusion, several sharply dressed security officers entered the ballroom and approached the elderly man. "Sir, one said respectfully. The board members have arrived. The entire room froze. Board members? The old man gave a small sigh. Thank you. Whispers spread rapidly across the ballroom. That's him. Wait, that's Edward Hale, the billionaire? Maria stared in disbelief. Edward Hale, the founder of one of the largest charitable foundations in America. A man whose name appeared in newspapers and business magazines for decades. A man rumored to donate millions anonymously every year. And she had just watched her daughter offer him half a peanut butter sandwich. The wealthy guests who had ignored him moments earlier suddenly crowded closer, smiling too brightly, speaking too eagerly. But Edward ignored them all. Instead, he looked directly at Maria and Lily. I came tonight without announcing who I was, he explained calmly. I wanted to see how people treat strangers when they think no one important is watching. The room became painfully quiet. Edward's eyes moved slowly across the crowd. Most people failed. Several guests lowered their heads. Then he smiled gently at Lily. But this little girl passed. Lily blinked innocently. Because I shared my sandwich? Edward nodded. Yes, because kindness without expecting anything in return is the rarest kind of wealth. Maria felt tears burning her eyes. Edward turned to one of his assistants. Please get me the file. The assistant quickly handed him a folder. Edward opened it and faced Maria. I know who you are, he said softly. You worked 2 jobs for years after your husband died. You volunteered at shelters even when you had almost nothing yourself. And last month after losing your job, you still donated winter coats to families who needed them more. Maria's breath caught. How did you? My foundation tracks local volunteer programs, Edward replied. Your name came up many times. The ballroom was completely silent now. Edward took a deep breath. Maria, people laughed at you tonight because they saw poverty. He paused. I see character. Tears rolled down Maria's cheeks. Then Edward said words that changed her life forever. My company recently funded a housing initiative for single parents. I'd like to offer you and Lily a fully furnished home, paid educational support for Lily, and a leadership position at one of our community outreach centers. Throughout the room, Maria covered her mouth, unable to speak. Lily looked up at her mother with wide eyes. Mom, does this mean we're okay now? Maria dropped to her knees and pulled her daughter into her arms. Yes, baby, she whispered through tears. I think it does. Edward smiled quietly. But before leaving, he addressed the ballroom one final time. Never measure someone's worth by their clothes, their money, or their struggles, he said. The richest souls often walk into the room looking like they have nothing at all. Then he turned and walked toward the waiting black cars outside. And for the first time that night, nobody laughed. Because suddenly, everyone understood something they should have known from the beginning. Kindness is a currency more powerful than wealth. And sometimes, the people the world overlooks are the ones who have the most beautiful hearts of all.